AM Talk this morning, we have Deputy Minister of Communications and Member of Parliament for Ewutu Senya West, and he's in the studio. George Andah is here. Thanks for joining me, George.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good
Congratulations.
morning. Thank you very much.
For your official swearing in.
Thank you very much.
Took place the last week before Easter.
Thank you.
So Easter, good time you had with the family.
Well, I think Easter is always a good time. It's a time for renewing.
Because your swearing in took place before the time. Yeah.
An opportunity to serve God, an opportunity to serve country, a privilege, considering the fact that there are a lot of other equally competent or even more competent individuals that His Excellency the President could have nominated. So I think for me, I'm humbled but yet excited at the opportunity to serve in the executive, and I'm extremely excited that I'm one of the few deputy ministers that has the opportunity to serve under a female substantive minister. And Madam Honorable Eslo also has significant experience in the space of communication, and I'm looking forward to learning and contributing my quota so that, as she keeps on saying, Smart Ghana is going to happen soon.
And you also have great experience in the communication sector too.
Well, I think it's a great team. I mean, Vincent, myself, complementing Honorable Eslo. So we certainly are going to build on the foundations that previous administrations have started. So I think it's only going to be exciting times going forward.
And we're just even going to posit our discussions. Just I believe close to about, or just 20 hours after Dr. Bawumia had the official appearance on 100 days of marking the Kufuor-led administration. And with all the experiences that your team, the team minister and the deputies have for communication, you should say that it will be positive times for the sector.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, it's positive. There's a lot that needs to be done. The expectations are extremely high, and I think that we can only just deliver. We don't have any other choice, and I think it's a great team that we have. The complement of the three of us would do the ministry a great deal. And of course, the current chief director and the other directors that are there are extremely cooperative.
And we know that it's been one of the fastest growing sectors over the last decade, if not a half as well. So critically has been the subject of the use of mobile money in many transactions. Some great ideas you have around it?
Well, you see, I'm now on the policy side, but the great thing is that the great thing is that coming from or having a background in the operation, critically understanding what the needs of the customers are, what the pain points of the customers are, what the challenges of the operators are, where the operators could do a bit more than they are doing, and understanding the policy direction of the government, it puts us in a totally different space. And like I said, I think it's just the right kind of team that we need at this time. I mean, complementing what the National Communications Authority has, the Director General of the National Communications Authority, his background, the board chairman that has been appointed by the National Communications Authority, Kweku Sechiado. Rich experience coming from the telecoms chamber and now coming to be the board chairman of the NCA. So it's just right. It's just good for Ghana. It's good for the industry, and ultimately it's going to be good for the citizens of Ghana. Okay,
now let's get on to our mainstream discussions for which we brought you here today. 100 days marked for the Kufuor-led government. The event, multimedia or Joy News marked with a whole event, appearance by the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Of course, formally we know that it's now just become a tradition of a sort, having taken those experiences from the more developed democracies, especially in the U.S. What would you say about the event in itself and the appearance by the Vice President?
I think I'd like to congratulate the organizers for putting such an event together. I was actually in the constituency, but I was monitoring what was happening, and I think it was extremely engaging. Dr. Bawumia was certainly on point as usual. The audience, the questions that we asked were properly addressed. and I think it was great. It was such a big relief to be listening to Dr. Baumia talking about the 103 achievements that we had hit or we had chalked in 100 days. And if you recall, there were a lot of negativity when His Excellency the President Andah Dankwa Akufo-Addo was talking about his commitment to Ghana and the things that he was going to do to get Ghana working. And I think that the first 100 days are a clear testimony to what the 4 years is going to be. I think Ghanaians need to be excited. Those of us that have had the opportunity to serve need to continue working hard. We need to continue being extremely humble. We need to continue being honest. And we need to keep on remembering that the battle that we are fighting is the Lord's. We need to work putting Ghana first to make sure that Ghana works again.
Well, let's just watch the Vice President at the event yesterday.
We have taken as a matter of policy power purchases. Anyone who is coming to produce power in Ghana and says we want a power purchase agreement, we are saying that you cannot charge us more than 10 cents per kilowatt hour. We have capped it. Ghana is paying the highest electricity in West Africa as far as I know, charges. So we are, because they are charging us 17 cents and 21 cents. In other countries, they are charging them 10 cents. We are saying you cannot charge us more than 10 cents. For new PPAs, the new policy in the energy sector, that says from now on, because Ghana is moving towards renewable energy, we are no longer going to accept any thermal power purchase agreements. It's over. From now going, if you are bringing in a power purchase agreement, it has to be renewable energy. That is what you are producing. So if you don't have renewable energy to produce, don't come to Ghana. You have to go elsewhere.
Please tell Ghanaians your plans you have to help the health system, because the health system in Ghana is now in a transition. As you have already moved from transition, but the health sector is still in transition. What are the plans you have to transform the health system now, more especially mental health, national health insurance, non-communicable diseases, and expanded program on immunization? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just before you do the answering, just want to add to that, just a bit more specific on the National Health Insurance Scheme. In the manifesto, you promised to increase funding for it. It's not part of the 103 achievements you put out there. Should I assume then that you haven't achieved that yet?
Thank you very much. I think in that case, I should make it 104. Because we have increased funding to the National Health Insurance under the budget. We have 300 million Ghana cedis more this year in the budget for National Health Insurance. So I think that in the area of health, we are looking very seriously at making sure that the National Health Insurance Scheme can be sustained, to provide more funding for it. We are beginning next week with payment of arrears. There have been arrears since March 2016 or so in the National Health Insurance, and a lot of service providers are in trouble. And if you don't settle these arrears, you have problems in the system. And so we have allocated funds in the budget to settle these arrears, and we are starting next week.
So the Vice President at the event yesterday, and he talked more importantly about energy, and we know that Mr. Andah, it's something that confronted the previous government, gave industry hell of a time, and affected the economy badly.
Well, I mean, you'll recall that when we were campaigning, we campaigned on a number of pillars. We said we're going to make sure that we fix the economy. We're going to address the issues of the macro level. We said we're going to fix the challenges in the energy sector. We said we're going to deliver on our campaign promise of free SHS. We said we're going to fix the challenges in the health sector. we address all the issues in all the sectors. I think the first 100 days, Ghanaians will be the best judge. Where we came from as far as the energy sector was concerned, we were having issues where there was a challenge with the stability of power. So industry were complaining, the citizens were complaining, the industry players themselves in the power sector were complaining because there was a lot of challenges in terms of the tariffs that were being charged and people couldn't pay. We made a commitment that we're going to address some of these issues, and indeed we've removed some of the levies that were taking the tariffs on the high side. In terms of the stability of energy, I'm sure that you are aware that Ghanaians are experiencing much more stable power supply. Industry is quite happy. Going forward, we need to make sure that we address distribution. We need to make sure that we address capacity. And these are the things that we are looking at. If you listen to Alhaji Dr. Bawumia, the Vice President, he has said that a number of the energy contracts have been, power contracts have been reviewed. And this had saved the country a significant amount of money. So this clearly is a government that is looking at the immediate, medium-term and long-term issues that are affecting the country. And I think that so far so good. Ghanaians have been good. God has been good. But most importantly, His Excellency the President has put together a great team to make sure that we hit the ground running and we deliver on the mandate that Ghanaians have given to us to make sure that Ghana works again.
We'll have Mr. Kojo Poku. He's an energy expert on the line, because what the Vice President raised critically was a subject of how now we need to move forward and resolve to use what nature has given us by way of making sure that we undertake renewable means of generating energy.
It's one of the issues, apart from reviewing the contract. He said
definitely.
Any new power agreements will be focused on renewable energy. And I think from the policy point of view that makes absolute sense. I mean, you have wind, there's a lot of renewable sources of power that we should be harnessing. And once there's a policy direction that encourages individuals to invest in those areas, and I think it's just happy days.
And we have Mr. Kojo Poku on the line. Good morning to you, Mr. Poku. Mr. Poku, good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Kojo Poku.
Yeah, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. And I'm getting the voice of the phone is my brother Jordan. George, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. Good morning to your listeners.
Good to hear from you. Happy Easter, sir.
Happy Easter to everybody.
But now that we want to have a certain shift in focus, of course, Ghana will not be the isolated country in a way. Renewable energy, and if we're going to have perhaps IPPs coming in, how receptive would they be to the position of government now to make sure that that becomes a focus of how we generate energy?
The position that has been taken is not really something that is going to be the long term. It's really short and medium term position. What the review of the PPA showed was that there is too many power purchase agreements, over 5,000 megawatts of power purchase agreements signed. And that basically does not give focus into planning. So what the government, like we heard our brother said, and the Vice President also said yesterday, is that for now, and emphasis is for now, no thermal power purchase agreement will be signed, because there's so many that have been signed and there hasn't been performance on that. The renewable energy, what you do need is basically a mixture. Our Renewable Energy Act gives much importance to that. Everybody who is doing thermal energy is supposed to have a renewable energy mix as well. So basically, you cannot just have thermal. We are supposed to promote our renewable energy sector, which includes wind, solar, mini hydros, and stuff like that. The only problem in that area is that there is a lot of challenges that company faces in going into the other area. Solar, we all know, is very easy to deploy, but it demands a lot of land space. What the focus now is to do mini solar farm in embedded generation, which it means is that you go into certain areas, maybe like Sefi, and in Sefi you will do maybe 20 megawatts for the 30 people. You don't drive.
No, well, Mr. Kojo-Poku, we seem to be having a bad line. And,
hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
No, we can hear you, but I think your voice is muffled a bit. So.
Sorry, I think there is a
So we have to re-establish that contact and see whether we can get clarity on the subject. But Ms. Andah, we know that renewables, of course, they're just coming into the world of energy in a certain sense. They're expensive at the beginning, but ultimately over the medium to long term, cost effective in that sense too. Are we ready for it? Can we have the consumers paying the right tariffs for it?
Well, you see, I think the most important thing is having a policy that gives investors that level of confidence that government understands the need for them to invest in renewable energy, and having a policy that makes it worthwhile for their investment. And I think that's just what we have done. Like you said, it might seem to be expensive in the beginning, but when the full policy is rolled out, ultimately it will be beneficial not just to the citizens, but beneficial to the country as a whole.
And Mr. Kojo-Poku, our energy expert, is back on the line now.
Yeah, is the line better now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more clarity. Renewables, and if that is a focus, how do we deal with the expense, or perhaps the
renewable energy sector is facing a lot of challenges in terms of expenditure, because you see, if we look at mini hydros, which is something I'm involved in, the current situation of government setting in a feed-in tariff, which is much lower than what will encourage some of these infrastructure expenditure to be done. What some of us are trying to engage the government on is to basically do a much higher tariff to start with, then maybe in 5-8 years you can reverse it back to the feed-in tariff that is supposed to be there. If you are to talk of solar has become very cheap. Now I know that there are PPAs being signed for solar between 10 to 12 cents. So solar, because of the improvement in technology, solar is very cheap. But I was saying earlier before I went off, the focus of solar now is not to put it on the national grid. The focus of solar is to do what is called embedded generation. Like if you go to maybe Seshi or you go to Wa, you would do 20 megawatts and focus the 20 megawatts for the communities in the area. You do not try and put it on the national grid that has been the focus before. And that is why most of the PPAs that were reviewed, the power purchase agreement that were reviewed, they don't have that. You will see that there were some power purchase agreements signed for 600 megawatts. 200 megawatts. It's not possible to do 200 megawatts of solar. The land mass alone you need to do 200 megawatts of solar is huge. So those were misplaced priorities when those PPAs were signed. So coming back to your question, yes, the initial capital expenditure needed for these mini hydros are quite high. But what some of us are trying to engage government on is to allow a little bit more tariffs to be charged so that we'll be able to have some of these infrastructure. Look, Akosombo, when it was built, was not giving us 3 cents. But after 60 years of Akosombo, we can now enjoy 3 cents. So if the government, through PULC, can give a little bit more to some of infrastructure like wind, biomass, and some of these things, then yes, they can be built, because then the business sense will now be met. Then some of us investors can come in and build some of these infrastructures. After 8 years, you can now renegotiate the tariffs and they can be a bit cheaper.
And I remember the last time you were in the studio with me, we discussed about how perhaps you take a country like Germany, you have the towns or the communities or the various areas generating, and if they have more than enough, they can then feed it into or sell it back onto the grid. That kind of model.
Yes, no, that is really enshrined in law. You know, if everybody can look at the Renewable Energy Act 832, I mean, it's every individual, be it a company or an individual, if you or my brother George is generating more than they need in their house, you can have an arrangement with ECG where you can feed your neighbors, and at the end of the month, you will net it off. Then ECG will probably pay you for supplying those neighbors electricity. It is something that is in the Renewable Energy Act. Just the problem with Ghana is that a lot of people don't read some of these acts that are passed by Parliament, and people don't take advantage of some of these things. You can buy maybe a 10 megawatt or a match 150 kV generator that uses maybe biogas or something and supply a community. And if it's only that it will be enough for the area, people can use it, then you can now have some of these net off with ECG. It is something that I think it should be highlighted, that people can take advantage of it. You can put solar panels on your house. If what you generate from the solar panel is more than enough for your house, you can serve your neighbor, and in the end, you can have that arrangement with ECG, and they will net off and give you the balance. It is something that is in the Renewable Energy Act.
Well, thank you very much, Kojo Poku, for your incisive feedback on our subjects this morning. He's worked in oil and gas, has great experiences. So, but if we have to now get a certain focus on this, we know that we have more than we can as far as the capacity is. And during the campaign, it's always been said that it's been a capital or a money issue as far as creating the needed generation. How can we ensure that there's stability for industry and then also for domestic consumers?
I think Alhaji Dr. Bawumia provided the answer, and Kojo has sort of intimated the same thing. A number of these agreements are not delivering value for money. So we're having to pay on average of 17 cents when globally is around 10 cents. So we need to review these contracts, and we need to make sure that the end user is paying what is realistic. Now, it means that the entire supply chain needs to be looked at, from generation to distribution, needs to be looked at. A lot of the debt has been piled up because of the source of generation that we are looking at, and the cost of crude that is used to power these plants is extremely expensive. So now that the policy direction is to look at renewable sources of energy, it means that we are going to have a sustained generation source, which is not going to necessarily be dependent on other variables that we do not control. And so it's a visionary approach to solving the problem. And I'm not sure that in the initial stages it will be necessarily more expensive than what we currently paying. But any which way, it is the best thing for Ghana. It's the best thing for our future. And like I said, the most important thing is that there is policy direction in that space. And that is what is going to encourage the investors to come in. It's going to encourage the power producers to come in. And so it's a great move.
At the end of the day, there are important policy initiatives and also existing structures that tend to affect people and their livelihoods. National Health Insurance Scheme, for which the Vice President talked about, but the excessive debt that the scheme owes its service providers is a critical issue for which government now has to grapple with. How is that going to be going forward? Not going to be a reflection of what we were saying, having long outstanding debts for the service providers?
I think you are very much aware that Ghanaians voted for change. Ghanaians voted for change that was going to create opportunities, was going to create partnerships, and was going to create equal opportunities for all. We cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. We knew that there were challenges with the management of certain areas of the economy. And so far, the moves that the government has taken have addressed some of these challenges. Health, education, agriculture are three critical areas that directly affect the lifestyle of the average Ghanaian. And it's very important that as a government we fix those areas. We can't continue to pile on the debt, and that is why you realize that there's a lot that is being done in terms of restructuring and looking for a sustainable source of funding for the National Health Insurance Authority, for them to be able to work. Of course, that one-time premium that was promised by the previous administration was something that was not feasible. And so we, as a government, are doing the things that are right to make sure that we can sustain that scheme. It's not a matter of just looking at it and letting it collapse. Okay.
Well, prior to the MPP coming into office, and the Vice President said, of course, in the budget we have extra 300 million to make sure that all these incidentals are catered for the service providers. But there was the toying over the idea, or even the advocacy, that we needed to increase funding for it, even increase the sources of the funding. How do we do that?
Well, I mean, I'm sure the Minister of Finance will be the best person to answer that question.
Logically, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not in the finance ministry, and I'm not a member of the economic management team. But like you said, at the moment there's some provision that has been made to make sure that their providers or the partners are paid for the services that they have delivered. Medium to long term, there are some challenges with the scheme that need to be addressed, that need to be fixed, and I believe that that's exactly what the administrators of that scheme are looking at, together with the Ministry of Finance and the economic management team of the government.
Okay, so now let's move on to a subject about the IMF and also Ghana making sure that we continue with the current strategy of fiscal management. And we have a press conference that was addressed by the IMF mission chief, and just basically means the head of the IMF in Ghana, Annalisa Fedelino, saying that Ghana's long-standing challenges could only be resolved through ambitious and sustained reforms in key policy areas, going beyond the central government to encompass the broader public sector, because we know expenditure is high. How are we making sure that not that level of austerity, but making sure prudent financial management becomes a key part of delivering promises on the social side, whilst at the same time making sure that we're well in line with our own projections in our expenditure?
I think you're very much aware that one of the things that threw the economy out of gear was the excessive government expenditure. Since His Excellency the President Andah took office, he and the economic management team have put together a number of policies. On a light note, when people were complaining that the size of his government was too big, he came and stated exactly why he needed these number of people to be able to deliver on the issues. Amongst them is the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the establishment of the Office of the Minister who's going to be in charge of public procurement. We know that procurement is one of the areas where significant corruption and or wastage takes place as far as government expenditure is concerned. And so once you have a ministry that's in charge of that, and it clearly shows the direction that His Excellency the President wants to go. You are also aware that the government or the President has announced a policy where no ministry should buy new cars, and we are supposed to be using the existing resources that we have available. And I think that some of these things are are clearly in line with what the IMF is, I won't say is asking for, but IMF is reinforcing, because these things are things that Alhaji Dr. Bawumia has said severally, that the previous administration didn't listen to him when he was talking. So now that he's the head of the economic management team, it's clearly easier for him to do what is right for Ghana. And I think that the sound bites or the key messages by the IMF country head are clearly a source of encouragement that indeed we are heading the right direction, and the IMF sees that we're heading the right direction.
But we know these Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, International Finance Corporation, etc., they always praise new government when they come into office. But the reality is that at the end of the day, the huge expenditure at wastage at government level becomes...
My brother, there are two things, okay. The policy direction would inform or would impact on the level of investment that comes into the country. For the first time, we've been able to increase our reserves from 6 billion to 8 billion. This clearly shows that the investor community is extremely confident that the policies that we're putting in place are going to fix the economy, are going to get Ghana to work again. The cedi was falling until the budget was read, and the policies in terms of moving the economy from a taxation-led economy to a production-led economy, which would then translate into jobs being created and the citizens being more empowered. You realize what happened. The cedi stabilized, and now the cedi is strengthening. So clearly, I mean, you as a Ghanaian that is looking at the key indicators, you do not need to wait to hear what the IMF is saying. But you can see that these key indicators are trending positively in terms of what is good for the country. And I guess that should be the benchmark that we should use. Clearly, Ghana is going to work again. Clearly, 100 days so far have been positive. There's still a lot more work that has to be done. And we are poised to make sure that we deliver on the mandate that the citizens of Ghana have given to us.
Amidst the many promises that have been made, and that also needs to be fulfilled. For example, in the budget, loaded huge expenditures that very much on the social side, whilst at the same time cutting down on taxes, ultimately leading to some perhaps less revenue in those sectoral areas. Of course, overall, you could see a certain balance. At the end of the day, how do we create that synergy between spending on what the social needs of the ordinary Ghanaian is, and how also we need to rake into the coffers the needed revenue?
Well, I'm not sure that I fully understand your question, but let me try.
We want to spend on the social side, free SHS and all. At the same time, we're cutting back on taxes, etc.
Is there a portion in the budget that gives you reason to believe that we don't have enough revenue to finance the budget? Because the budget shows where your sources of revenue are, and it shows what you want to spend. So once the finance minister has stated what the sources of revenue are, even with the levies that have been abolished, and he shows where we want to spend, I'm not too sure that I fully understand where the challenge is coming from, unless you want to point a hole in the sources of revenue that you are not convinced that this bucket of revenue that is being promised, either from internal resources or from external donor funding, is not going to materialize, and so there's going to be a gap in terms of what we want to spend. Then yes, we can talk about that. But with that,
for what you're answering, even the minority in Parliament have expressed same sentiments.
That
perhaps. What? Premise on my question.
That what exactly is their issue?
Well, basically about the expenditure and the tax cuts. Yeah, and how Roland, that could ultimately also...
Roland, this is...
Of course, I know what the finance minister is about.
The budget is the budget. The budget has been approved by Parliament. You understand? The budget, I mean, to try and break it down as simply as possible.
Well, the budget has been approved, but the minority in Parliament also have some of these concerns still.
Roland, I want us to zero in on exactly what your concern is or what the concern of the minority is. Okay? The budget shows, let me try and explain as simple as possible. The budget shows that there are, say, 10 sources of revenue. There's revenue from taxes, there's revenue from oil sales, revenue from other sources, revenue from external donor funding, and so it comes to a total amount of revenue that you expect to generate over the period. The same budget will show that for each of the sector ministries and each of the expenditure areas for the year, this is how much you intend to spend. I'm not aware that there's any deficit between the revenue that has been brought to Parliament, which has been approved, and the expenditure.
Well, the minority in anticipation, having hindsight.
Roland, you see.
Are you saying as media we shouldn't take their concerns into consideration?
I'm not saying that don't take their concerns into consideration, but I'm saying that ask the right questions, okay? Because the work, part of the work of a minority is to be disruptive, okay? Even
so
if
you're saying that the questions are and the concerns they raise are just
no. I'm just asking you to show me exactly.
To disrupt.
I'm just saying that show me exactly what bucket in the source of revenue you are not convinced will be delivered, and then we can zero in on that. But until then, it's very difficult for me to address your concerns because they are clearly stated sources of revenue that the finance minister has said. They are clearly stated sources of expenditure that the finance minister has said. And this has been brought to Parliament. It's been approved by Parliament. You understand? So from the process point of view, I'm a bit lost as to commenting.
I do understand your responses to my question. And I know perhaps also where you're coming from, because you can't spend what you can't generate or what you haven't itemized for. Is that not what you're saying?
Exactly.
Basically that.
Yes.
But we know that budgets in this country have been overrun each year. Of course, excessively under the
you see, Roland,
John Mahama-led government,
I think
but in anticipation, we are also entitled to ask some of these key questions.
I'm not faulting you for asking. All I'm asking that is point me in the direction where you're not comfortable with, and I can try and explain. But I mean, it's a bit unfair for you to be judging the administration of His Excellency President Addo Dankwa with the administration of the previous government. I mean, they are two different. It's two different leaders. I mean, two different teams. And if you compare the first 100 days of the NPP in power with the first 100 days of the NDC in opposition, I'm sure that you can still tell who's working and who's not. So, I mean, let us focus on the good things. All the economic indicators so far are trending positive, okay? 103 achievements over 100 days. Are there any of these achievements that you believe that are not true? Okay, let us talk about those things. Ghanaians are beginning to feel the positive change. Let us pray to God that His Excellency President Addo Dankwa continues to give the right leadership direction for the executive to be able to work and make Ghana work again, so that the citizens will really feel proud of being Ghanaians. Then I think those are the issues that we should be looking at.
Okay, one of the things that he talked about was galamsey, and of course we had the issues about the vigilante groups that questions were raised on, for which he also answered. But the ultimatum for illegal miners to stop their activities, according to the minister, will not be extended beyond the last day today.
Yes.
Okay, but at the end of the day, we know that the communities in which we have some of these operations taking place have had their citizens and those who indulge in them coming to raise concerns about how, whether these are illegal or not, provide sources of avenue for them to be employed, eke a living, generate some income for their families, etc. How do we try to create some kind of a semblance of balance between revenue that needs to be generated from income for those people in those communities and how illegal their activities are also need to be stopped?
Roland, I think an illegality is an illegality. There's a process for small-scale mining to be legalized. You need to go and apply for the license. It needs to be rectified by Parliament, and you have your license to operate. It's like you were telling me that armed robbers are coming to my house and they are using the loot to support their families, and so we should allow them to continue robbing. I think it's neither here nor there. The Constitution is clear, okay, on how small-scale mining should be operated in the country. Once these individuals are not going through that process, and they are messing up our water bodies, they are messing up our environment, they are putting themselves at risk, they are depleting the nation's resources, they are not paying the relevant taxes. We cannot allow this human security issue to continue. And I'm very excited that from His Excellency the President down to the Minister responsible for lands and natural resources, the message has been consistent. It's time to get things to work the right way. We need to, all of us as citizens need to take a position that we do not support Galamsey. Okay, if you think about a situation where in the next 10 years you're not going to have running water and you're going to be having to import water, okay, if you go to the Galamsey sites and you see the degradation to the environment, you see the health hazards that these individuals are going through, no one would tell you that join the campaign to stop Galamsey. Okay, and I think that this is something that is clearly stated in the Constitution. It is an illegality. There's a process for individuals that want to get involved, individuals, especially Ghanaians, that want to get involved in small-scale mining have to go through. And if indeed they believe that they are doing something good for the country, then they should go through that process. We cannot let them be circumventing the process. I mean,
at the end of the day, we have somebody that are indicating that some of these people in these communities are threatening not to vote for your party in the next 4 years.
Roland,
sir,
I'm not sure that everything is just about being voted into power. I think that we are here to do good for the country. And once we do good for the country, the citizens themselves would vote for the best party or the best leader to lead them. If we are going to be taking decisions because we think that it would cost us the election, then I'm not sure that that is the kind of leader that you know His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to be. His Excellency the President takes decisions. He will take tough decisions that are in the best interest of Ghanaians and the best interest of the citizens. I'm not sure that you yourself sitting down here, you would you would agree to those individuals that are threatening not to vote for a party A or a party B because they are participating in an illegality.
Well, they said they voted for your party, and it's also because certain promises were given to them.
Roland,
when government comes into power, it is an MPP government. Will be giving that leeway to do what they
Roland, can you please prove to me who said that when we come into power we will legalize Galamsey?
I didn't say that the party
but
and whoever went to campaign said
who
that
mentioned the
legalize.
name. Mention the name.
I'm saying that we have insights that are indicating that those citizens from those areas who benefit from Galamsey are giving the indication.
Let's do the balance.
That
okay?
There was some semblance of promises that were given to them on a campaign
Roland,
trail.
put me to shame on your program. Show me one individual in government, okay, that spoke on behalf of government or spoke on behalf of the party and said Galamsey.
Well, obviously, your minister is against it. So we have a policy stance of government. And I'm saying that on the ground, the feedback from the citizens out there.
But you know what the policy stand of the government is. So why are you listening to individuals where you don't have any?
Well, if they have concerns and they are from those communities,
I'm asking you.
How do you deal with those concerns based on the position of government?
I deal with what the government position is.
And you have no fears about whether those individuals number thousands, don't vote for your party the next time around?
Roland, we're voted by Ghanaians to do what is right for God and country. The leader that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa is a leader that puts Ghana first. We can have a situation where 90% of Ghanaians are saying that they are against Galamsey, and 10% that are benefiting are going to hold us to ransom. The position of the minister is clear, the position of the government is clear, and I stand by the position of the minister and the government. I believe that when we sanitize that space, there are going to be much more individuals that are going to get jobs. Okay, if we're looking at even fixing the water bodies that have been damaged, we're looking at reclaiming the land that has been damaged. Thousands of opportunities of jobs to be created. Okay, doing things the right way. And indeed, Roland, what we are saying is that Galamsey is illegal. But small-scale mining is allowed with the right permits, with the right licenses. So I really don't see what the challenge is about. If you are doing something and there's a permit for you to go through, do it well for your own interest, in the interest of the community. What stops you from going through that? I stand against Galamsey. I am anti-Galamsey. And I believe that we should all stop Galamsey.
You're aware that the Deputy Minister for the sector went to visit Akwetia and some of those environs where we had, and even said that if it would take government to lose power the next time around, that is an MPP government, the right thing will be done, despite all the threats from the citizen.
I'm not sure that that position is inconsistent with what I have said. It's not inconsistent with what His Excellency the President has said. It's not inconsistent with what the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has said. And indeed, it's not inconsistent with what Ghanaians are asking for.
Well, we have Fred Agbenyo on the line. He's a Deputy Director of Communications for the NDC. Good morning to you, Mr. Agbenyo.
Good morning, Roland.
Okay, so the Vice President was a headline speaker for the Joy News program marking 100 days of the Kufuor-Addo-led government to have an assessment of what the government has achieved or not achieved. What would you say are the speaking points from the Vice President and his speech yesterday?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I couldn't listen. Reckon that yesterday was a Christian Easter festivity, and so we're observing the day. I would have thought that we would have realized that and organized events of that nature on that particular day, but I chose to do it. So far, I think this morning I've listened to a few of the media houses, and they try to put out what said on that occasion, what I'll call the achievement of the MPP within the 100 days. I wonder if the things they put out are the things that Ghanaians out there to be free that they have achieved. Because when you mention MPP today, the first thing that comes to the mind of people of this country, one is of the impunity, the other is about discipline, the other is about lawlessness. People taking their law into their own hands and whatever they want to do. People no longer go to bed with their both eyes closed because of they don't know when next somebody will pounce on them. The security cannot protect themselves, nationality cannot protect themselves, the court cannot protect themselves. For us in NDC, they are left to nothing. Now, several of the promises that they made, we all agree that there's no way a government can fulfill their promises within 100 days. But what we have seen so far doesn't give anybody the hope that the future will be any better than what it is now. Now, the budget that was put out recently, the propaganda budget, the 4-1 that they raised so much, told those who are selling papers in this country that we're going to take off the duties that they pay for papers. When the implementation document came from the GRA board, we didn't see anything about paper. Now they are telling us that they didn't know there's an equal levy, that they need to conduct equals and what else. I wouldn't expect that excuse from a competent government that we are going to let it in. But that's what they are telling us today. Now you come in, you have increased lorry fares by 15%. The airfares for domestic airlines, you claim you have removed the 70.5% VAT that is on it. The question is how many Ghanaians patronize the services of the airline? What the majority of our people use the normal vehicle, the front trucks, and the taxis. There they said they should pay more. Now, if you look at the same budget that they brought out, the money that is going to this assembly, which will be used for the development of the villages and the communities and the rest, has been slashed down. The money that goes to national insurance has been slashed down. Get fund has been slashed down. Meanwhile, the money that goes to the presidency has been increased to levels that we have never seen before. If you ask them, they'll tell you where they have appointed some ministers to that particular to the presidency, as though in the past there were no ministers at the presidency. And so for me, where I sit now, all he's telling us is that to praise them because they have made promises that they are thinking of having a 6% deficit by the end of the fiscal year. You've not achieved that, you want us to start praising you. Free education that you promised them for this year before the election. But then you're going to have free education across board. Now you come on board, and what you are doing is the same thing that NDC was doing, that you are doing it in basic. Now you are telling us, well, you are going to start with the first years alone. And even then, you are not going to take everything on board. You are going to select some of the items and pick on board. So that was not a promise that you made to us. You said we are going to restore the church technical allowances. What has happened to it? Roland, you and I were in this country when we went for this Euro bond some time back, and the coupon rate was supposed to pay was about 10.5%. The heavy nearly broke loose. They screamed and shouted the coupon rate was too high, that's never happened before. Just about a week ago, we had gone for the same Euro bond. And how much are they paying as the coupon rate? Almost 15%. Look at the duration that we are talking about. And so for me, there is nothing really that I can point to that this government has achieved, apart from the non-presidential number of ministers that are appointed, 110 of them. That's never happened before in our entire history. Monitoring as a minister, whatever, all manner of things. They keep on creating ministers and deputy ministers. So I don't have any confidence that this government is going to get any better. What I am saying is a group of people have come in to create for themselves and enjoy the largesse of their efforts to win the election. That's what I'm saying.
But how can you speak to perhaps according to sources in government and also representatives of government, the well-intentioned policies of making sure that they don't buy extra cars for those who have been appointed, and making sure that there are also cutbacks on various expenditure in the public sector to make sure that it falls in line with fiscal expenditure?
My brother, you can't be promising the airport development. You said their roads are not good, they are going to fix their roads. We say you don't have enough, you are going to build more schools. You are going to build more hospitals. You are going to provide electricity, you are going to provide water. You are promising infrastructure. And at the same time, you are telling us you are going to cut down expenditure. Which magic are you going to use to achieve that? How is that going to happen? How are you going to do all the things that you are promising that you are going to do? Now, this whole promise of asking that they are not going to buy new vehicles, at the time the president was making that promise, his Minister of Fisheries has already ordered for cars that are coming in, they are going to use. And so I'm at a loss as if they really mean that promise that they made. Now, they didn't even give us any timeline. Are they saying that for the 4 years that I'm going to be in government, I'm not going to buy new vehicles? Is that what they are saying? Or they'll say that it's not when they think that's convenient for them. If it's a clear policy that you want to make, that really you want to cut down what they said, you don't want to buy brand new vehicles, let us know exactly what it means. Communicate well. Is it within a year? Is it within 2 years? Is it within 3 years? Is it within the entire period that you'll be in office? Then we can hold you to that. But when you come and put this in this populist fashion, I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to anybody.
Well, thank you. Please be on the line. Mr. George Andah is in the studio with me, and he will respond to some of the things you've raised in response to my question.
Good morning, my brother Fred. I think Fred can be excused because he admitted at the beginning of his delivery that he did not have the opportunity to listen to what Alhaji Dr. Bawumia had said. So all the 103 achievements that Alhaji Dr. Bawumia, His Excellency the Vice President, has spoken about, I'm not sure that Fred has had the opportunity to really listen and digest it. So it will really be a challenge for him to make a meaningful contribution on that issue. So, I mean, that fact established. Fred has made a number of comments. He spoke about the fact that the policy on the purchase of new vehicles was for want of a better word, porous. I guess clearly the policy as announced was very clear. It stated that there will be no purchase of new vehicles by any ministry unless with the prior approval of the Chief of Staff until further notice. Okay, I don't see why there should be any ambiguity about this. It's
You're talking about timelines. So it should be a year, for 2 years, for 3 years.
What it says until further notice. Okay, I mean, I don't think that it is improper for His Excellency the President to give an indefinite timeline to a policy decision that he has put in place. Of course, until the executive is comfortable that that policy should be removed, the policy holds and it's there. You understand? So I don't see why the hue and cry is. Secondly, he expressed a concern about the Eurobond that was raised. He's mixing a CD-denominated interest rate with a dollar interest rate. So, I mean, I think that we need to clearly understand some of these issues to be able to be poo-pooing these issues. For the first time in the history of this country, we have a reserve of over $2 billion. Okay, this is not something that you read in a comic. It's a fact on the ground. Okay, and these things are showing in terms of the positivity and the strengthening of the economy. Okay, so I'm really at a loss as to I think the most comical aspect of what he was saying was that His Excellency the Vice President had the program on Easter Monday when people were supposed to be resting or celebrating Easter.
It's supposed to be reveling.
I think that is a big insult to you as the organizers, and I was expecting that you would have addressed that question, but you let him.
Are you on the line?
You let him pass such comments, and you let your viewers suffer such inconvenience, and I think it's really unfair to your viewers. I think you should put your foot down on some of these issues.
So you're saying that the day that was chosen to organize the program in itself was wrong? Was blasphemous?
Well, I think that Mr. Andah can do whatever spin he wants to put on it. But the point I'm making fundamental is that Ghana is a secular country. When our brothers, the Muslims, are celebrating their occasions, their public holidays, as much as possible, everybody try to be part of it. Everybody try to respect that day. Everybody try to say attention to that day. And one would have thought that Christians are celebrating that Easter, actually the same should have been done to them. I don't know if the gov't that organized it or the Vice President asked to organize whatever that is.
No, it's Joy News. Joy News and Joy FM, they put together that program.
But I think I reserve a right to express it this way. It can be comic to him, it can be whichever you want to look at it, but that is my view. That day was not a good day for a program of this nature. But you can agree or disagree with me. I don't have any problem with it.
But the Vice President enumerated 100.
Well, you're leaving it at that?
Yeah, I'm leaving it at that.
Oh, I see.
That's his opinion.
Very interesting.
That's his opinion.
I'm not sure that your company will be very happy with you. I mean, at least you should be able to defend.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason why that day was put together.
So explain to him so that he'll understand and be better informed.
And Mr.
Why is that forcing you now?
And Mr. Agbanyo knows that on any day, and for which you need to have the right listenership and the right audience to get your programming across and your content, you choose to undertake programming based on those analyses. I don't think that having a program on an Easter Monday, where, of course, you have people relaxing more at home, where you have the best listening ear and the eyeballs, I don't think anybody who is into marketing communications will choose any other day apart from that.
Teach him.
Well, Roland, I'm not too sure.
I know you're a deputy communications director, though, but I just have to put that to you.
That is not a point.
But on a scenario, Mr. Agbanyo, on a scenario where you are home, and then you have the Vice President on a program speaking as to whether his government has done well or not in its 100 days in office, would you tune off the channel and watch something else?
Roland, were you home on Easter Monday? Yeah, and I know in this country that on Easter Monday, people go to the beaches, travel around, people who they were at all. But I'm not making a determination whether it is good or right. I have given you my religious reason what I think that is that.
Okay, so because you're a Christian,
I am not questioning you.
so because you're a Christian, no program should be organized on an Easter Monday.
I'm surprised I've allowed the Andah to push you to the legality. Let's do the substantive issue. That was just a personal comment, which is my. It may not be your view, and I'm not going to agree with my position on that. So
and at the end of the day, you also know that the 100 days of the government also falls on a particular day, and it happened to have also fallen on an Easter Monday.
Can we proceed?
Thank you, Fred.
All right. All right. So, so at the end of the day, no, I haven't finished with you. At the end of the day, we know that the Vice President spoke to 103 points, which he categorized as being some of the achievement of government within 100 days in office. Do you find any of them, as you have been monitoring since morning, any of them quite intriguing you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think I heard something about fertilizer prices subsidized by some 50% or so, and then somebody thought that it's the class fund that is taking that decision. I remember the Andah President, John Dramani Mahama, at the point where even give fertilizer free of charge to Ghanaian farmers in this country. And you can talk to some cocoa farmers, you can talk to farmers across the country, of course, everybody who receives the fertilizer. Our target really is to build a fertilizer plant in this country, so we stop importing fertilizer in the country. If somebody goes to bring in stacks of fertilizer to the country and subsidize the price, I don't see why they think that we should be celebrating that at this point. And one other thing that I found a bit strange is the fact that promises, things that they plan to do, actually they're able to do it or not able to do it, they still now start classes for them. Implement it, let us see that you've really done it. Then all of us can talk about it. And for me, I can't see anything I can point to that's why they have achieved so far. They can point to that they have achieved it. I can't see anything, really. I can't see anything.
Let me come in.
Okay, just be on the line, and Mr. Andah will respond to some of the things that you haven't seen or even you can't even acknowledge at all.
Fred, good morning again. I think that you should try and get the transcript of the 103 promises that His Excellency the Vice President delivered at the Joy FM program on Easter Monday yesterday, and appraise yourselves with the issues so you can talk to the issues. On the flip side, I think that if we evaluate the NDC in 100 days in opposition, all we see is confusion, all we see is lack of direction, all we see is insults and hurling abuses at each other. And I think that in as much as you are failing to see what the MPP is doing in terms of service to Ghana, in terms of getting the economy back on track, in terms of getting the social services to work, in terms of making sure that we are addressing the serious issues as far as stabilizing the city and the economy are concerned, as far as creating jobs, removing the nuisance or abolishing the nuisance levies and taxes, and making sure that Ghana moves from a taxation-led economy to a production-led economy. Okay, the issues that are being addressed in the agri sector, the issues that are being addressed in the energy sector, the issues that are being addressed in the fishing industry, in the communication sector, in all the areas, okay, of the economy. I think that it would be most unfair to say that you are not seeing anything, but well, that is your view. I believe that some other people within your same party do recognize the fact that a significant amount of work has been made or a significant amount of achievements have been chalked in the first 100 days. And Ghanaians are indeed clear testimony to the fact that as far as the 100 days is concerned, it's been good. That said, I'm not saying that we have delivered on everything that we say we're going to deliver. He had concerns about the free SHS. We have said that free SHS is going to take off for first years from September. We have 4 years to serve this country, okay? And I think that clearly these are some of the things that we are putting in place, and for us to be citizens and not spectators, we need to talk and face reality. Okay,
thank you very much. Fred Agbenyo is the Deputy Communications Director for the NDC.
On the line. on that.
Oh, you want to get a minute?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Well, if he comes in, I'll come in again. Because I'm in the studio, okay? So if he comes in, I'll come in again.
All right. Fred, please have your minute.
Yes, I'm afraid that I once said that accusing me for not saying it is good with NCT. And yet you could see all the wrongs that are happening in NCT. I thought that it's very, very busy governing the country and its attention has been focused on that. I don't know if you have an eye on what is happening in NCT as well. But not just on the latter side. I have said that I have not seen anything. I have been talking to Ghanaians across the spectrum, and they want to tell me that all they see is indiscipline, all they see is environment being created for huge corruption in future. 110 ministers, unprecedented. What they see is that when you travel and move around town, our cities are still engulfed in filth. Go to Fiscal, go to Medina, go to Ghanaians, everywhere you pass, they can't even collect the filth. It's still what it is. And so, you can tell me you are doing so much in several other sectors. Of course, I'm not asking that we see all the results today. But like the saying goes,
Fred, your minute is up.
Second.
I say your minute is up, please.
Hey, Roland. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Fred Agbenyo, Deputy Communications Director of the NDC. And just wrap up for me.
Well, I mean,
take a break.
I think the mistake that Fred is doing is the same mistake that him and most of the leaders in the NDC did leading up to the elections, where they failed to connect with the people and they think that winning an election is about propaganda. We are talking about real issues. We are talking about leaders that have clear
You're not
direction.
saying that whatever the NDC and those on the other side of the political divide are raising are key concerns. They feel the ordinary Ghanaians don't tend to see the things that you have listed.
You organized a program yesterday. Okay, what was your assessment at the end of the program? Okay, it's not for me to come and blow our own horns. It's for Ghanaians to judge. You understand? And listening, reading the reports that came out of the program, listening to how the program went. Clearly, Ghanaians so far impressed with the delivery of this government. The fact that Fred is poo-pooing the issues that are happening in the NDC shows that clearly he's not on top of the game. Okay, they should look at fixing their issues. They should look at accepting the good things that are happening. Okay, when I came, when you were asking me about the issues in the communication industry, I stated clearly that we're going to build on the foundations that have been established by the previous administration. I didn't come and say that from His Excellency, the President, who was a Minister of Communication, to Honorable Haruna Idrisu, to Omani Boama, they didn't do nothing. Okay, when you don't recognize what is happening and you keep on poo-pooing things that are happening, then nobody's going to take you serious. Okay, we thank Ghanaians for this opportunity to serve for 100 days. We pray for more wisdom. We pray for more energy. We pray for more drive so that we can do what God has set for us to do for Ghana.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, sir.
Nyeyi George Andah. He is a member of parliament for Ewutu Senya West, but also the Deputy Communications Minister. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're taking a break. When we come back, we have great conversations still on the show. Do stay on.